Purpose, a caring approach to business.
Welcome, everybody!
Tomorrow belongs to those of us who conceive of it as belonging to everyone, who lend the best of ourselves to it, and with joy. A quote from one of my absolute favorites, Audre Lorde. Welcome to Pollinating Purpose, a caring approach to business by Pillar Nonprofit Network. I am your host and ultimate dog lover, Miriam Waliji. I also am the Social Enterprise Program Manager and Coach here at Pillar Nonprofit. For those of you who are new here, Pollinating Purpose is a show all about supporting organizations who seek to have social impact through their work. Whether nonprofit, for-profit, or grassroots organization, you'll learn key considerations to starting or growing your social purpose organization in a long-term and sustainable way. Alongside this learning, you'll also have the opportunity to hear from folks who are doing similar work in their own communities. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to be welcoming Silence Genti from the London Black History Coordinating Committee as our guest. We'll have the chance to chat with Silence, learn about the history of the organization, the work that they're doing, and the impact that they seek to have. For a little bit more about Silence, Silence is a father to Lua and Lewis. He is passionate about creating a better community and world for his children. He is a community builder, an equity advocate, and storyteller. A former journalist in his native Zimbabwe, he finds no-string storytelling a crucial element in creating and extending capacity. Silence is a longtime member of the London Black History Coordinating Committee and consults with different organizations on equity, communications, and developing web tools. He is a founder of Storyhouse, a local company that uses a storytelling approach to web development and communication. Silence,
hey.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so happy you're here.
Thank you.
And welcome to Pollinating Purpose.
All right. Here I'm the first one, so hey.
Yes, yeah. So if you could just share a little bit about what inspired the creation of the London Black History Coordinating Committee.
Right. So the London Black History Coordinating Committee was founded in 2002, and I think the idea was to promote and educate and uplift the community, right? The specific area was, of course, Black history. I think at the time, the founding members thought that we needed to do more to promote Black history and its place in London history and Canadian history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because for me personally, so often I hear about, Black history, it's in the context of the United States.
Right.
But Canada has such a rich history as well. So is that kind of part of it, creating that distinction?
Yes. And in fact, actually, for me in particular, the primary reason why I joined was that when I was attending some of the events, they didn't speak to my history because I was born in Zimbabwe. Right. So yes, I may know about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but that's not my specific history, right? So specifically for me, I wanted to be involved so that I could also tell a little bit of the history of the Africans who have moved to Canada and have made Canada a home, and make sure that it has a place in Canadian, Black history as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I was reading your bio, it mentioned that you used to be a journalist in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
So does that kind of play into that desire to have stories and narratives?
Yeah. So there's a quote, I don't know who said this a long time ago. They said a community without a newspaper is dead, right?
Okay.
And I think I take that to mean that any community that doesn't have a platform to share information is dead, right? So I think I've strived to be involved in everything that allows our community to just share information and grow, because I think without information we can't grow, right? So yes, that's definitely part of it. Storytelling and narratives are a part of that, yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. And so, as you mentioned, the London Black History Coordinating Committee has been around since 2002, which is 20 years ago.
Long time.
It was a bit of a moment when I made that connection. So what have been, some of the challenges and the barriers? You said that you've been a part of it since 2008. So,
Right.
what kind of barriers have you faced in this type of work?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of challenges in different ways. When you're speaking internally, like so within the community, the Black community is not homogenous, right? So it's not one community. There's a lot of sub-communities within. We have people who were, their families were born in Canada. We have families that came from the States. There were families that moved from Africa or the Caribbean. So it's not a one homogeneous community. So I think striving to serve the needs of those different communities can be a challenge, right? Yeah. And I think the other issue as well is funding, right? I don't think I feel that there hasn't been enough funding to support some of the work that we do. So I think right now we have about, I can't even remember the number of volunteers that we have, but no one on the community is paid, basically. Right. So that means that if we are doing work on the work of the committee, it has to be, after our full-time jobs, after we've taken care of the needs of the family, and sometimes there's not enough time to actually do the work. So those are some of the challenges.
Yeah, and that is a common problem in the nonprofit sector is that, either it's heavily reliant on volunteers or, there's a lot of work for the availability of funding.
Yes.
So, in the context of both, Black communities not being a monolith, like they're not homogenous, and this issue of funding, like, have you found ways to overcome those barriers? Like, are there things that you're working on? How are you trying to navigate that?
So we just recently had a strategic session, and I think one of the priority goals that we're going to have is to seek more volunteers, right? So more people to help in the work, so that we are not all carrying a heavy load. And I think there is there's an awareness that we do need to do more as well in terms of seeking funding, right? And I want to mention this too. I think one of the primary challenges that we're having right now, and maybe I could say this in the context of the story. There's a story that I used to have here when I was growing up. This is the story of the eagle, right? So when it gets old, it flies away to a mountain, right? And then it plucks away all its feathers because it's old. It plucks away the nails because they've become bent, and it rests in the mountain until it's a painful process, right? Can you just imagine plucking all your feathers? And then it rests in the mountain until it heals, right? So until the new feathers grow, new nails, even the beak as well. And then it flies away, looking as fresh and young as a young eagle, I guess. And I think that's sort of the process that we're at right now at the LBHCC. Is we've been around for 20 years, and right now we're just at a place where we have stopped. We want to look at what we're doing. Are we still serving the community in the way that the community wants us to serve? Has our mandate changed? What should we do better in the next 20 years, right? It's not always a pleasant process, because then you have to look at some of the things that you may not have done well, right? But I'm feeling really good about, I think, the willingness of everybody on the team to just stop and reflect and use this moment to grow the organization. So I'm really hopeful that, and we're actually getting help from you guys through this strategic process. So I'm really hopeful that I think like the eagle, we're just going to rise. We're going to be better. We're going to be young and fresh, and
Yeah, I love that. And we will be coming back to the PCIP program that Silence is mentioning in a little bit. But before we do, can you share a little bit about the work that the London Black History Committee Coordinating Committee is doing? Like, if you were to summarize the best that you can, because I'm sure it's very expansive, but what is the work being done? How would you describe that?
Right. So there's a lot of, educational events that we put up.
Cool.
Right? And I think more and more we've become an all year round organization as opposed to just, operating in February, which is what most people think. But we actually, we do more outside February than people think. There's a lot of advocacy as well that we do, sometimes dealing with, the city, and different official organs in terms of promoting Black interest and Black history in particular. We have some great partnerships going on right now. We are working with the Pioneer Village on the Fugitive Slave Chapel, which is going to be moved from its current location to the Pioneer Village, Fanshawe Pioneer Village.
Okay.
Right? It's a great initiative because I think what it signifies is that Black history is not just for Black people, but it's for all Londoners and all Canadians. So I think having the chapel at the Pioneer Village will allow more people in our city and outside to experience and learn more about that particular piece of history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you said that Black history just isn't for Black folks. That's something that I think, I believe as well, is that, being able to be empathetic is also knowing the stories of other people. And so it's beautiful work that this committee is doing because it's so vital in order to build that empathy and compassion and community care, beyond just our own distinct communities.
You're right, yeah.
Cheers. Thank you. So going back to the Pillar Community Impact Project, Community Impact Program. Make sure I get that branded right. Can you share a little bit? So you mentioned, part of the strategic process has been with the PCIP program, but can you share a little bit more about what you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. So I think my understanding, because I'm not with Pillar, so I should say this. I think my understanding is that Pillar looked into the community and where the community stood in terms of needs and realized that I think there needed to be a change in terms of what kind of resources were made available to the community, right? So instead of, focusing on the wards, which I love, by the way, right? Maybe it was a time to focus on the specific needs of the different community organizations. And in our earlier conversations, I think we did point out that, yes, we are at a point where we need to think about what structures we need to have as an organization, particularly because we're 20 years old, right? We need to think about the specific resources we will need to grow for the next 20 years. And that's where the program is coming in. So it will be providing support in terms of strategic planning, in terms of governance, in terms of, as well as specific structures around fundraising. Okay. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm really hopeful that we will get to the end of this in a far much better place than when we started.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, that's, being able to go further with the work that you're doing. That's always the goal with these sorts of things. You want to create that long-term sustainable work. And kind of going back to something that you said earlier in regards to, reconsidering the work that's happening and ensuring that you're fulfilling the need that exists. How are you able to, or how are you going about validating what's being asked for? what are the ways in which you're trying to hear the community, I guess?
Right. I think we just really going back old school, just talking to people.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about the London Black History Coordinating Committee? What should change? What are we doing well? What should we keep? So in a lot of ways, it's just really one-on-one conversations. That's what we've been doing. We also have, surveys that are online that people are filling up. But for me, the really trusted path, I think, is just talking to people one-on-one whenever we get the chance. So
yeah, okay,
yeah.
Beautiful. So thinking about the future, how do you hope to see the community change and improve with the work that you're doing?
Right.
Big question.
Yeah. So there's a proverb from, I think it's from West Africa, and they say that to speak wisdom, one has to speak from the corners of their mouth, right? And what that means is that I guess there's no one right path. I think there are different ways. We can't just do our work in a certain way. I think there comes a time when we have to change how we approach our work, right? And I think we are open to that. I think we're open to changing how we've operated over the last few years. And that's the key thing. So I think in terms of the future, we're really open. Anything goes. Whatever, because I think people get stuck too. A lot of organizations get stuck in their own way. If you have been, I think Pila is going through the same thing too, right? You're trying to figure out that if how you've been working still works, right? Or if you need to change, right? So if you've been speaking from I guess to use that proverb again, from the center of your mouth, now you're going to speak from the corner of your mouth because it's a different environment, right?
Yeah.
So that's, we are open to change.
Yeah, the past 2 years have certainly meant a shift in how we choose to operate, and the PCIP program is, an indication of that.
Right.
For those who are unfamiliar, we used to have the Pillar Community Impact Awards. So it was this beautiful gala. It was wonderful. It was such a beautiful celebration.
I loved it. And I gotta tell you, it was the one place where I could connect with people that I haven't seen, in the past year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this person, so it was really great in terms of, networking and getting together with people. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we also recognize that things are different right now and there are different needs in the community. So we're putting the awards on hold, and instead we have the PCIP program, which is offering support to organizations that could benefit from it. So we're very excited about this shift, thinking about what's needed and trying to hear what's needed and make those changes.
So I'm just going to turn the tables on you.
Yeah, okay.
So what's been the challenge for you in this past 2 years as you do that transition?
Yeah, well, for me personally, I started at Pillar in the midst of the pandemic. I didn't work here prior to that. I think it's really, for the work that I do in social enterprise support, it's really recognizing that people want to do good in the work that they're doing, and they really want to have impact. So how can I shift the ways in which we're offering that support to really help and to create tools that are tangible and allow for learning for a wide range of folks who are a part of a community. They see the need in their community and they want to do something about it. They have the community context, they know their communities, and now we can offer tools to support them in actually doing that work. So that's how the creation of this, this show came to be, is that we wanted to make this information accessible in a different way from, some of the typical programs that we used to offer. Yeah. So that's been it for me.
All right.
Yeah. Cool. The journalist in you is coming out. Yeah. Okay. So I do have a question. We're talking a lot about community and doing work with and for community. So often I feel like that also involves collaboration. And you've mentioned collaborating with Pillar on this PCIP program. What have been other, communities, organizations, people that your organization has been able to collaborate with, and what kind of drives that desire to work together?
Right. So it's interesting that because we're doing our reflections recently, and I think a lot of the partnerships that have come up have really been organic more than anything. It's like we didn't go out to seek this partner. It just happened, and they're good matches, right? I think one of the greatest partners we've had over the last actually 20 years has been London Museum.
Okay.
Right. They have been there since the founding of the organization. They've provided support in different ways. We also have a partnership with London Cross-Cultural Learner Center. They do a lot of the administration for the organization, for our committee.
Okay, cool.
They, provide other resources as well. London Library, they've been a great partner as well over the last, I think, maybe 10 years or so. Lots of great partnerships. A lot of it has been organizations who have an interest in Black history and in Black communities as well. And it's been great. And I think going forward, we will probably have people dedicated towards seeking partnerships, because we want to make the work that we do grow. So
okay, cool. Because I know a little bit about the work that's been done with the London Museum. Can you share a little bit of some of the specific projects that you've done together?
Right. So they've hosted the one of my favorite events for Black History Month. This is the opening ceremony for Black History Month. It happens the first Saturday of February, every February. And this is a place where, apart from the official programming, which is, you're going to have people speaking, you're going to have performances, there's going to be a little bit of food from the different communities, from the different communities. For me, the biggest part is really the networking part. Because, so this is where I go if I want to know that that person is still living in London.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if I don't see you there, I'm like, maybe they've moved to Toronto. Because that's another story too, right? If you don't see, there's a saying that if you don't see somebody in certain communities in 6 months, chances are they've moved to Toronto. And that was before COVID, I guess. So that's really a special event, I think, in terms of connecting people. It's free. People get to just meet and mingle. I think they did a great project where an exhibition of artifacts from different Black communities. I think that was 3-4 years ago. And I think we're always looking at making new projects together. So I'm really excited about the prospects. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, like you said, Black History Month is a part of it, but it's not all of it. And so to hear about, some of the other things that are going
That's
on.
actually been one of the challenges right now, is that a lot of people call us the London Black History Month Coordinating Committee, but it's not. It's London Black History Coordinating Committee without the month.
Without the month, yeah, because it's all year long.
Right. So I try as much as possible to correct people, because it's just There are other months besides February, I guess. So,
Yes, yeah, exactly. You exist outside of one month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and as kind of a final question, where can folks find out more information, about you, about the Black History Coordinating Committee, the work that you're doing? Where can people find out more?
All right, so we do have a website, lbhcc.ca. We're also on Facebook and a little bit on Twitter and Instagram. But I think the main space would be LBHCC, and there'll be other avenues as well. So
perfect, thank you. And before we wrap up, is there any final thing that you'd like to share? Anything that you'd like to say to our wonderful audience?
That's a tough one. Yes. So just a few days ago, I was privileged enough to be part of a conversation around the importance of community organizations, right? And what came out of that was that community organizations are really important because they enrich communities, right? There are gaps in terms of what the government or other agencies, official agencies, can do, and that's where community agencies come in, right? So I think let's not forget that. Let's not forget how important we are to our communities. Despite the struggles that the challenges of the last 2 years, I'm hopeful that all of us will pull through.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Silence. It's been an honor. It's been a blast, and really, really grateful you joined us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Wonderful conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you once again to Silence for joining us from the London Black History Coordinating Committee and for all the work that's being done by that organization. It is needed and welcome in the city, and I'm so excited to hear and see all the changes that they're making for the new direction and growth that they're kind of leaning into. What Silence was sharing about community organizations being at the helm of change is such an important and vital conversation to be having, and I'm thrilled that we get to have it here on the show. If you are interested in learning more about the London Black History Coordinating Committee, we will have information linked on our website for this show where you can find out more. And thank you for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about Pillar Nonprofit Network and the work that we're doing with the Pillar Community Impact Program, as well as our other programs, you can head over to our website at pillarnonprofit.ca. And if you'd like to stay up to date on the different workshops and offerings available here, I highly recommend signing up for our free newsletter. It has all the good, fun information. I, again, am your host, guide, business bud, Miriam Waliji, and this has been Pollinating Purpose, a caring approach to business. I want to thank you again for coming along for the ride. I am so thrilled that you're here.
Pollinating purpose. Pollinating purpose. Pollinating purpose. Pollinating purpose, a caring approach to business. Welcome, everybody.